welcome, and take a moment to relax. Tonight, we're drifting into the mysterious world of Team Rocket, the iconic troublemakers of the Pokémon universe. You've heard their motto 1,000 times, but behind the jokes and blunders lies a history full of secrets, experiments, and unexpected heart. For the next little while, we'll uncover 120 quiet facts about Giovanni's ambitions, Jessie and James's strange pasts, and the curious stories of Pokémon caught in their schemes. No loud battles, no shouting trainers, just calm stories softly told to help you unwind. So close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let the world of Pokémon fade into whispers of memory and nostalgia. Because even the villains deserve a bedtime story, and as always, Team Rocket's blasting off again. Team Rocket first appeared as the main villainous group in Pokémon Red and Blue, the games that started it all. Long before the anime made them comic icons, they were a dark, shadowy organization working quietly behind the scenes, stealing, experimenting, and shaping the underworld of Kanto. Their presence was felt in every corner, from the hidden game corner base in Celadon City to the Tower of Ghosts in Lavender Town. Players met them early, fought them often, and slowly learned that behind every stolen Pokémon or missing Sylph Code item was the same Red Shakisher. They weren't just villains, they were a constant reminder that the Pokémon world, as bright as it seemed, had shadows too. Every great villain needs a code, and Team Rocket's was simple: profit above all else. Their official motto in the original games wasn't poetic or exaggerated like in the anime. It was cold and direct. It read, "Steal Pokémon for profit. Exploit Pokémon for profit. All Pokémon exist for the glory of Team Rocket. No pretense of justice. No mission of balance. Just greed dressed up as purpose." That blunt statement defined who they were: organized crime on a scale Kanto had never seen. While other teams in later generations had ideology or vision, Team Rocket stood apart. They didn't want to change the world, they wanted to own it. Behind the respectable walls of the Viridian City Gym stood a man named Giovanni. To the townspeople, he was simply a gym leader, another challenge for trainers seeking their 8th badge. But hidden beneath that calm authority was the mastermind behind Team Rocket. His gym doubled as a cover operation, a perfect disguise for the region's most dangerous criminal. Trainers who defeated him had no idea they were standing in front of the leader of a vast underground empire. And when his secret was finally revealed, Giovanni vanished, his gym abandoned, his badge left behind. That twist made him one of the most unforgettable villains in gaming history, a man who turned respectability into camouflage. In Japan, Giovanni is known as Sakaki, a name that carries quiet symbolism. Sakaki refers to a sacred evergreen tree used in Shinto rituals, a plant believed to bridge the world of humans and gods. It's a name that suggests authority, reverence, and calm power, traits Giovanni embodies in his own way. But where the tree connects heaven and earth, Sakaki the man connects two worlds of a different kind: the noble world of gym leaders and the hidden world of organized crime. This contrast, purity in name, corruption in purpose, makes him an almost mythic figure in Pokémon lore, a leader who cloaks his ambition in respect and whose quiet strength mirrors the stillness before a storm. Before the names Team Rocket ever appeared in English, Japanese players knew them as Rokettodon, literally Rocket Gang. The term carries a different feel, less corporate, more rebellious, like a street crew that grew too powerful to ignore. It captures the spirit of their early design. Black uniforms, sharp gloves, a giant red R, and that sense of danger that followed them everywhere. Rikettodon became so iconic in Japan that even today, long after other villain teams have come and gone, people still use it when talking about mischief or ambition. They weren't scientists or zealots. They were thieves with style, rebels who aimed higher than anyone thought they could. And just like a rocket, their rise and their fall would light up the sky. The organization once had operations stretching across Kanto, Johto, and the Sevii Islands, a reach that made them more than just a group of petty thieves. In Kanto, they controlled entire cities through underground casinos and secret labs. In Johto, they returned stronger, manipulating radio towers and scientists for experiments. Even in the quiet Sevii Islands, far from the mainland, their agents were rebuilding in secret, quietly recruiting new members and hoarding data. Everywhere trainers traveled, rocket activity followed like a shadow, an unspoken reminder that peace was temporary. They weren't a small band of crooks anymore, they were a network. And though their symbols vanished from city walls, whispers of that red R could still be heard in back alleys, like an echo that refused to fade. Over the years, Team Rocket's influence crept even further. They later expanded into Huen, Sinnoh, and even Alola, not through open control, but through hidden branches and imitators. Some worked under the same name, others simply borrowed their methods: bribery, manipulation, and Pokémon theft. In each region, the ideology of Rocket lived on, a belief that Pokémon were resources, not partners. While other villainous teams like Aqua, Galactic, or Skull made their own marks, all of them, in some way, owed something to Rocket's legacy. They had proven that corruption could wear a uniform and a smile. Even when disbanded, their spirit, that hunger for control, became a blueprint for every dark ambition that followed. Long before Giovanni's reign, the Team Rocket legacy began with a woman, his mother, known only as Madame Boss. In the manga and rare radio dramas, she's portrayed as ruthless, elegant, and absolutely determined to dominate the Pokémon world. She saw Pokémon not as friends or creatures to study, but as tools of power. Her leadership turned a small gang of smugglers into a global syndicate, setting the stage for everything her son would later inherit. Madame Boss treated Giovanni's rise as destiny, grooming him to continue her empire. Though she's only briefly mentioned in canon, her presence lingers, like the first spark that started the fire. Without her, Team Rocket may never have taken off at all. Madame Boss didn't disappear after her son's rise, at least not entirely. She was later referenced in rare Japanese audio dramas from the 1990s, where she commands rocket agents with a smooth, icy confidence. In those stories, she operates from the shadows, controlling money, connections, and even other crime families. Her voice paints her as calculating but strangely charismatic, a woman who sees the world as a chessboard. Though never fully animated, her influence shaped Rocket's cold efficiency. It's easy to imagine her behind every whispered order, every experiment, every stolen Pokémon, a ghost at the foundation of an empire. To this day, she remains one of Pokémon's most mysterious figures, the unseen matriarch of all rocket mischief. Giovanni didn't rule alone. Across the Pokémon universe, His second in command changes depending on the story. Sometimes it's Archer, sometimes Apollo, Athena, or others entirely. Each represents a different side of Team Rocket. Archer, the loyal strategist; Athena, the fiery enforcer; Apollo, the charismatic manipulator. In some games, Archer tries to revive the team after Giovanni's defeat, showing just how strong their devotion runs. Thus, sub-leaders keep the organization alive when their boss vanishes, almost like priests preserving a broken religion. Even when Giovanni falls silent, they whisper his name in the dark, waiting for his return. It's a chilling kind of loyalty, one built not on friendship, but on power, fear, and a dream of seeing that red R rise again. The red R, bold, simple, unforgettable, became one of the most recognizable symbols in Pokémon history. At first, it was just a letter printed on black uniforms and plastered across underground bases, but over time, it came to represent more than Team Rocket itself. It was a symbol of rebellion, greed, and charisma, a logo that even villains could wear with pride. In later anime seasons, the red R shifted into deep purple, reflecting a new tone, less comic, more serious, as the trio began working under stealthier orders. No matter the color, that symbol carried weight. Whenever it appeared on screen, fans knew what was coming: an explosion, a motto, and that familiar flash of chaos that made Team Rocket unforgettable. In Pokémon Gold and Silver, Team Rocket made its comeback in a way nobody expected, by hijacking the Goldenrod radio tower. On the surface, it was a cheerful building full of music and news, but below it, a secret plan was unfolding. Using radio waves, rocket scientists tried to manipulate Pokémon behavior, controlling them remotely. It was clever and chilling. While Kanto's operations were built on brute force, Johto's were all about subtlety. The tower's staff were imprisoned, its broadcast taken over, and an entire city unknowingly became part of their experiment. It took a brave trainer to fight through the floors and silence those signals, but even in defeat, the team's message was clear: Team Rocket always adapts. Far from the noise of Goldenrod, another secret base existed in Mahogany Town. Hidden beneath a quiet souvenir shop, this outpost was devoted to disturbing experiments, forcing Magikarp to evolve through artificial means. Trainers exploring the base found strange machinery, notes on evolution, and evidence of Pokémon being used as test subjects. The ultimate goal was to weaponize Gyarados, creatures of rage and destruction. When a red Gyarados appeared at the Lake of Rage, it was the result of their failed experiment leaking into the wild. That event became legendary, marking one of the first shiny Pokémon encounters in the games. But behind that moment of wonder was a reminder of Rocket's cruelty: science without empathy, ambition without restraint. When Heart Gold and Soul Silver revisited Johto, players were given something special: a chance to confront Giovanni himself. In an event tied to Pokémon Heart Gold / Soul Silver and Pokémon Platinum, Giovanni reappears, called out of hiding by his loyal subordinates. They beg him to return, to lead Team Rocket once more. Standing at the edge of a waterfall, Giovanni reflects on his past, his failures, and the consequences of his ambition. He refuses, not out of weakness, but out of understanding. It's one of the few times the infamous crime boss shows humanity. That quiet scene, set against the roar of falling water, closes a long chapter in Rocket's story, not with an explosion, but with silence. Even when the organization disbanded, Team Rocket never truly disappeared. Scattered grunts continued to act on their own, stealing, scheming, and keeping the legend alive. Some couldn't accept defeat. Others still believed Giovanni would one day return to lead them again. In the Johto games, one such grunt was found wandering aimlessly, clinging to his uniform as if it were a memory. He later appears in the Unova region, proof that even across continents, Rocket's reach lingered. It wasn't loyalty anymore, it was identity. For some, wearing that red R meant belonging to something greater, even if that something was gone. Team Rocket may have fallen, but its shadow still moved on its own. One of those rogue Rocket members made headlines in the most unexpected way by stealing a single power plant part in Kanto. It seemed small, almost laughable compared to their usual grand schemes, but that one act caused a chain reaction across the region. Entire cities lost power, the magnet train shut down, and even the power plant's workers were left helpless. The culprit? A lone grunt who refused to let Team Rocket die. He wasn't driven by money anymore, just pride and the belief that the Rocket name still meant something. When the stolen part was finally recovered, it became clear. Even one lost rocket could still cause chaos. Sometimes, the most dangerous thing isn't a criminal empire, but the ghost of one that refuses to fade. The plan to control Pokémon through radio waves was one of Team Rocket's most sinister experiments. From deep within the Goldenrod Tower, they broadcast a strange, low-frequency signal that disrupted the instincts of wild Pokémon. Some grew violent, others confused, obeying commands they didn't understand. It was a horrifying twist on the idea of Pokémon training, a world where obedience wasn't earned through friendship, but forced through science. So, their technology even affected the Lake of Rage, turning Magikarp into frenzied Gyarados. When the signal was finally silenced, the region breathed again. But that moment revealed something chilling. Rocket wasn't just about theft anymore. They were learning how to control nature itself, one frequency at a time. Their supposed mission, their grand slogan, was simple: to rule the world with Pokémon. It sounded bold, even noble in its ambition, until you realized most rocket grunts could barely steal a Pokeball without tripping over each other. Their lower ranks were full of dreamers and failures, people chasing Giovanni's vision but lacking his discipline. Still, the idea behind that slogan lingered. For Rocket, Pokémon weren't friends, tools, or partners. They were weapons, a path to domination. And though they constantly failed in spectacular ways, that dream of ruling through power never left them. Every Rocket hideout, every uniform, every stolen Pokémon echoed that belief, that one day, somehow, the world would bow to the red R. In the Pokémon Adventures manga, the true meaning of Rocket was revealed in a darkly poetic acronym: Raid on the City, Knock Out Evil Tusks. It's not an official line from the games, but it captures the group's energy perfectly: blunt, violent, and unapologetic. This version of Team Rocket wasn't the bumbling trio from the anime. They were sharp, dangerous, and organized, assassins and scientists working in sync. The acronym reflected that attitude: strike fast, cause chaos, disappear. The manga's tone turned Team Rocket into something more real, not a joke, but a warning about what happens when ambition outpaces morality. Even the name itself became a symbol of destruction wrapped in sophistication, a title that said everything without needing to shout. When fans thought Team Rocket was gone for good, Pokémon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon brought them back as Team Rainbow Rocket. Led once again by Giovanni, this new incarnation pulled villains from alternate dimensions. Maxie, Archie, Cyrus, Getsis, and Lysandre all joined under his command. It was the ultimate crossover of evil, every ambition, every ideology united under one man's vision. Their headquarters gleamed in eerie color, fitting the rainbow name, but their purpose remained the same: seize power through Pokémon. Rainbow Rocket wasn't nostalgia, it was escalation, a reminder that evil evolves just like Pokémon do. Even across universes, Giovanni's influence reached out like a shadow, stretching through time, proving that Team Rocket never truly disappears. It just comes back louder. Jessie and James are the most recognizable faces of Team Rocket, the perfect blend of chaos, charm, and comedy. They're more than just villains, they're dreamers wrapped in black uniforms, chasing glory they'll never quite reach. Across hundreds of episodes, they've become beloved not because they succeed, but because they try, again and again, no matter how many times they're sent flying into the sky. They're both ridiculous and relatable, underdogs in a world of champions. Even their loyalty to each other and to their talking companion Meowth feels strangely human. For many fans, Team Rocket isn't about evil anymore. It's about perseverance, proof that even if the world blasts you off again and again, you can still strike your pose and promise to return tomorrow. In Japan, Jessie and James go by very different names: Musashi and Kojiro, a direct nod to the legendary samurai rivals Miyamoto Musashi and Sasaki Kojiro. Those names carry centuries of meaning. Two warriors whose fates were bound by conflict, destined to clash forever. It's a clever layer of symbolism. Jessie and James aren't heroes or enemies of each other, but they do live in a world of endless rivalry. Every plan they make becomes a duel against fate itself, one they're destined to lose with flair. Their Japanese names remind us that even in comedy, there's a hint of tragedy, a battle that never ends, a dream that can't be won, and two souls forever chasing the same impossible goal. When the anime came to the West, their names changed: Jessie and James, a playful twist on the American outlaw duo Jessie James. The choice fit perfectly. Just like the infamous gunslinger and his gang, these two live by mischief and chaos, always one step ahead of disaster. But unlike their historical namesakes, Jessie and James steal with charm, not cruelty. They rob the spotlight more than anything else, turning every defeat into entertainment. Their names capture what Team Rocket truly became in the anime: not feared villains, but lovable rogues who made failure an art form. Even their introductions sound like a performance, dramatic, rehearsed, and just a little too proud. Their boss, Giovanni, looms over them like a shadow, powerful, calm, and completely unaware of how much chaos his best agents cause. In most of the anime, he has no idea that Jessie, James, and Meowth spend their days chasing a single Pikachu instead of doing real missions. To him, they're just another field unit, so to fans, they're the heart of the show. Every time the trio sends him a report, they exaggerate their success, speaking from some ridiculous hideout or broken balloon. Giovanni barely reacts. He's too busy with real business to notice the comedic storm swirling in his name. The contrast between his cold authority and their childlike enthusiasm is part of what makes Team Rocket so endearing. The world's most clueless villains working for a man who doesn't even notice. The trio first appeared in the second episode of the Pokémon anime, titled Pokémon Emergency. They arrived dramatically, breaking into a Pokémon Center during a thunderstorm, Jessie, James, and Meowth stepping through the smoke like true villains. Their introduction was surprisingly serious, setting them up as genuine threats. But as the series evolved, their tone changed. They became the comic relief, falling through traps, getting zapped, and delivering the most quotable motto in anime history. Still, that first episode planted the seed of something lasting. No matter how many years passed, no matter how many regions Ash explored, Team Rocket followed. From that one stormy night onward, they became a constant, a mischievous echo trailing behind every new adventure. Despite being villains, Jessie and James often show an unshakable loyalty to each other, a bond that goes far beyond their job. No matter how many failures they face, they never truly turn on one another. When one falls, the other always reaches out a hand, no questions asked. They argue, tease, and bicker like siblings, but when danger comes, they move as one. Their partnership isn't built on fear or orders. It's built on understanding. They've shared hunger, failure, and hope, and somehow those shared losses made them stronger. Even in defeat, they comfort each other, laugh together, and try again. In a world obsessed with winning, Jessie and James quietly prove something else, that loyalty can be the greatest success of all. Every now and then, fate throws something bigger than them their way, and when that happens, Jessie, James, and Meowth have even teamed up with Ash and his friends. They don't do it for glory or reward. They do it because deep down, they still have a conscience. When the world is at stake, when a legendary Pokémon runs wild, or an even darker team rises, the trio puts aside their rivalry and fights alongside the heroes. And in those rare moments, you catch a glimpse of who they could have been if life had gone differently. For just a heartbeat, they're not villains or thieves. They're protectors, fighting for something bigger than themselves before returning to the only role they know. Over the years, Jessie and James have become masters of disguise, changing faces more often than some trainers change hats. From scientists and chefs to nurses and royalty, they've pretended to be almost everything imaginable. Their disguises are often absurd, yet somehow convincing enough to fool even their closest rivals. The fun isn't in whether they succeed, it's in how seriously they take each performance. Jessie's flair for drama and James's enthusiasm turn every outfit into a stage show. Each costume feels like a glimpse into their dreams, versions of themselves that might have existed as in another life. They might fail at crime, but in creativity, they never miss. When it comes to their schemes, Team Rocket's arsenal of vehicles is legendary. They've piloted submarines shaped like Gyarados, built walking robots powered by Meowth's ingenuity, and even used giant vacuums to steal Pokémon. Their machines are loud, clunky, and doomed to explode, but they're built with care and imagination. Every new contraption feels like a fresh start, another chance to outsmart the heroes. Somehow, they always have the perfect gadget for the situation, even if it never works as planned. It's almost poetic. No matter how many times their inventions go up in smoke, they rebuild them with the same excitement as the first day. Failure doesn't stop Team Rocket. It just gives them another blueprint. Out of all their inventions and machines, nothing is more iconic than the Meowth-shaped hot air balloon. Floating across the skies of Kanto, Johto, and beyond, it became their unofficial headquarters, part getaway vehicle, part symbol of who they are. It's ridiculous, impractical, and completely charming, just like them. Fans recognize that smiling Meowth face instantly, a warning sign that trouble or laughter is near. The balloon isn't just transport, it's a home. Inside, Jessie and James eat, sleep, argue, and dream of success. It's seen more explosions than any aircraft in history, yet it always gets rebuilt. Like its owners, it refuses to stay down. As long as there's a sky above, you can bet somewhere the Meowth balloon is drifting by, searching for its next big heist. In the early days of the anime, Team Rocket traveled beneath the waves in a Gyarados-shaped submarine, one of their first and most memorable vehicles. It was loud, colorful, and utterly impractical, exactly what fans came to love about them. The sub allowed them to sneak into harbors, chase water Pokémon, and occasionally escape after their plans went up in smoke. Despite its cartoonish design, the submarine symbolized Team Rocket's creativity and persistence. Even when they didn't have the money, resources, or common sense, they always found a way. They took something as terrifying as Gyarados and turned it into a goofy underwater getaway. It was absurd, it was clunky, and it was pure Team Rocket, stylish failure at its finest. Jessie's creation as a character has an unexpectedly personal origin. According to interviews, she was partly inspired by one of the anime writer's ex-girlfriends, fiery, ambitious, and dramatic to the core. The other half of her personality came from a villain in the classic anime, Time Bokan, known for her sharp wit and theatrical flair. That combination gave Jessie her signature energy, confident, explosive, and a little unhinged. She isn't evil so much as restless, chasing recognition she never quite gets. Her temper hides vulnerability, her arrogance hides pain. She's proof that villains don't have to be cold or cruel. Sometimes they're just people who never stopped trying to prove they matter. James, on the other hand, became the perfect contrast to Jessie's fiery personality. He's calm, emotional, and drawn to beauty in all its forms. Over the series, he developed a reputation for loving luxury Pokémon, elegant, quirky, and often misunderstood creatures like Growlithe, Victreebel, Chimecho, and Cacnea. His bond with them is genuine and gentle, showing a softer side to the team's chaos. James grew up in wealth, but he abandoned it to live freely, trading silk suits for rocket uniforms and high society for adventure. He's dramatic, kind-hearted, and sentimental, crying over Pokémon he has to release. Underneath the purple hair and clownish charm, he's one of the most human characters in the entire show. When the Pokémon anime began, Jessie's English voice was performed by Rachel Lillis, who also voiced Misty. Lillis brought Jessie to life with energy and rhythm, equal parts menace and comedy. Her performance gave Jessie's tantrums personality and her motto speeches flair. After years in the role, she passed the torch to Michelle Knotts, who carried that legacy forward beautifully. Knotts' Jessie sounds slightly smoother, more confident, the voice of a character who's grown over time. Between the two actors, Jessie's transformation became clear, from a fiery young troublemaker to a seasoned villain with her own sense of pride. The voice might have changed, but the passion behind every prepare for trouble never did. James also went through his own evolution behind the microphone. Originally voiced by Eric Stewart, who balanced his voice between melodrama and mischief, James quickly became one of the most expressive characters in the series. Stewart's performance gave him his trademark charm: theatrical, whiny, and endlessly likable. When Stewart left, James Carter Cathcart took over, bringing a warmer, more emotional tone to the character. Cathcart's James is a little more sincere, a little more self aware, a man who knows he's ridiculous, but still leans into it. Over the years, both voices helped shape James into what fans adore today. Not a villain, but a gentle soul trapped in a life of comic crime, always blasting off with a smile. Meowth's first English voice was performed by the late Matty Blaustein, whose work gave the character an unforgettable personality: clever, sarcastic, yet deeply emotional. Her version of Meowth wasn't just comic relief, it carried warmth and melancholy beneath the wisecracks. She gave the little cat soul. You could hear loneliness in his jokes and hope in his optimism. After Blaustein's passing, James Carter Cathcart stepped into the role, keeping Meowth's signature rhythm alive. His voice honored Maddie's legacy, blending comedy with tenderness. Through both performances, Meowth became more than a sidekick. He became the voice of Team Rocket's heart, speaking for those who never quite fit in, yet still dream of belonging. Among thousands of Pokémon, Meowth is one of the only ones who can speak human language fluently, a feat that astonishes both fans and characters alike. While most Pokémon can only repeat their names, Meowth holds full conversations, translates for his team, and even recites poetry. His speech is imperfect and scratchy, but unmistakably human. It bridges the gap between the Pokémon and the people who use them, making him one of the most unique characters in the entire franchise. This ability also makes Meowth lonely, too human for other Pokémon, too strange for humans. He walks between worlds, never fully belonging to either, yet somehow making both better just by being there. The story of how Meowth learned to talk is one of the most touching in the Pokémon universe. Long before joining Team Rocket, he fell in love with a glamorous female Meowth named Meowsy. To win her heart, he watched humans closely, copying their words, their walk, even their manners. He studied day and night until, miraculously, he could speak. But when he proudly showed her his new gift, she rejected him, calling him a freak. Heartbroken, but unbroken, Meowth kept walking upright and speaking ever since. That rejection defined him, not as tragedy, but as transformation. He turned heartbreak into strength, becoming something no one else had ever been, a Pokémon who could tell his own story. Because of his obsession with learning to walk and speak, Meowth claims he lost the natural ability to use Payday, the move his species is famous for. It's an ironic twist. In his pursuit of love and humanity, he gave up the one thing that could have made him rich. He often jokes about it, pretending not to care, but there's sadness beneath the laughter. In a team obsessed with money and success, Meowth stands as a symbol of something purer: sacrifice for the sake of connection. He traded power for understanding, gold coins for words, and somehow that made him richer than any trainer who ever caught him. Meowth's design was inspired by Japan's lucky cat, or Maneki Neko, the little golden cat often seen waving outside shops and restaurants. Traditionally, It symbolizes prosperity and good fortune. For Team Rocket, though, it became a delightful irony. Their mascot, meant to bring wealth, instead brings endless chaos and comic disaster. Still, Meowth keeps waving, sometimes literally, sometimes figuratively, no matter how many times the trio blasts off. His coin-shaped charm on his forehead echoes the gold coin that Maneki Neko carries, a visual reminder that luck and greed are two sides of the same coin. He may not bring Team Rocket riches, but he brings them something far more lasting: companionship, laughter, and hope. The trio's bond has always felt more like a family than a team of criminals. They eat together, travel together, and celebrate small victories like they're world-changing moments. They argue constantly about food, failures, and whose plan went wrong. But beneath the bickering lies genuine care. They share the same dream, the same motto, and often the same single rice ball for dinner. When one of them gets hurt, the others are the first to rush to their side. They're not bound by duty or money. They stay because they can't imagine life apart. They may fail at catching Pikachu, but they succeed at something much rarer: being there for each other through every defeat and every blast off. Their legendary motto, "Prepare for trouble and make it double," has been recited hundreds of times over decades. It's part performance, part identity. Each time they say it, Jessie's voice soars with pride. James follows with theatrical flair, and Meowth finishes with perfect timing. It's a battle cry, a poem, and a ritual all in one. Even when interrupted or ignored by their enemies, they deliver it like professionals on stage. For them, the motto isn't just a catchphrase, it's a declaration that they still exist, still matter, still dream. Every time those words echo, you can almost feel their stubborn optimism. No matter how many times they fall, Team Rocket always stands back up for another act. Behind the purple hair and fiery temper, Jessie's dream has always been to be rich, famous, and adored. In her heart, she's a performer. The world just never gave her the right audience. Throughout the anime, she's tried nearly everything: acting, modeling, singing, even coordinating Pokémon contests. And for brief, shining moments, she succeeds, her confidence lighting up the stage. But no matter how many failures follow, Jessie never loses her drive. Her ambition, often mistaken for arrogance, hides a deep longing to prove she's more than just the girl from Team Rocket. She isn't chasing evil, she's chasing applause, a spotlight that always seems just one blast off away. James joined Team Rocket for a reason far different from his teammates: not greed, but freedom. Born into a wealthy family, he grew up surrounded by privilege, but trapped by expectation. His parents arranged his marriage to a strict, controlling woman named Jessie Bell, whose personality mirrors Jessie's almost perfectly, perhaps explaining his loyalty to her. James ran away from that life, trading gold halls for Rocket headquarters and comfort for chaos. He found in Jessie and Meowth what his mansion never gave him: laughter, purpose, and friendship. Though he jokes constantly, James hides a gentle heart, one that would rather chase dreams with misfits than live luxuriously in a cage. He didn't join Team Rocket to rebel, he joined it to belong. Meowth is the glue that holds Team Rocket together, the small, scrappy thread that keeps the trio from unraveling. He's sarcastic, cynical, and often the voice of reason when Jessie and James go too far. Without him, their plans would collapse before they even began. He's the one who builds their machines, deciphers clues, and reminds them to keep going when things fall apart. But more importantly, he's the emotional center, the one who bridges their personalities. He understands Jessie's frustration, James's kindness, and somehow manages to balance both. For all his grumbling, Meowth never leaves their side, because deep down, he knows what they all do. That Team Rocket isn't just a team, it's home. In the stage musical Pokémon Live, Jessie, James, and Meowth do what they never managed in the anime. They actually succeed in stealing Pikachu. For once, their dream comes true. They capture him using clever traps and present him triumphantly to Giovanni. It's the perfect victory, but it doesn't feel like one, because in winning, they lose the heart of what makes them special, the endless chase, the adventure, the thrill of trying again. In the end, their success is short-lived, as the story spirals into chaos involving Mewtwo and Giovanni's ambitions. Still, for a brief, shining moment on stage, Team Rocket wasn't a punchline. They were what they always believed themselves to be: unstoppable, dramatic, and gloriously triumphant. Near the end of Ash's long journey, Jessie, James, and Meowth finally disbanded, at least for a little while. After years of traveling together, failing together, and blasting off together, they went their separate ways. It was a bittersweet ending. Each tried to follow their own path, unsure of what life without the others would even look like. But no matter how far they wandered, fate had other plans. Before long, they crossed paths again, drawn back by the same bond that had carried them for decades. Their reunion wasn't dramatic or loud. It was quiet, inevitable, and deeply human. Because some teams aren't meant to end, they just take short breaks before the next adventure begins. In the Electric Tale of Pikachu manga, Jessie and James's story takes a surprisingly gentle turn. Long after their days of stealing Pokémon, the two settle down, get married, and even have a child together. It's a version of their future that fans rarely see, one where dreams of wealth and fame fade into something more peaceful. The panels show them living simple lives, still bickering but smiling, surrounded by the echoes of who they used to be. It's a quiet redemption for two characters who spent their youth chasing impossible ambitions. In this ending, there's no blast off, no failure, just two misfits who finally find what they were really looking for: love, stability, and home. In the early games, Team Rocket committed one of the darkest acts in Pokémon history. They killed a Marowak in Lavender Town. It was a mother protecting her child, a Cubone, from rocket poachers. The encounter shocked players. It was the first and only confirmed Pokémon death in the original games. When the player later meets Marowak's ghost in the Pokémon Tower, it isn't for battle or profit, it's for closure. That scene gave unexpected depth to a story about catching and training creatures. It showed that beneath the colorful world and cheerful music, there were real consequences to greed. Team Rocket's cruelty wasn't cartoonish there. It was haunting, and it made Lavender Town unforgettable. In Pokémon Gold and Silver, Team Rocket's greed reached new lows when they began cutting off Slowpoke tails to sell on the black market. The crime shocked players who had grown used to their comic antics in the anime. In the games, Rocket grunts casually admit to harvesting tails for profit, treating it like business as usual. It was one of the first times the series openly addressed animal cruelty in its own way. Players who freed the captive Slowpoke realized how heartless the organization had become. That storyline cemented Team Rocket's role not just as thieves, but as true villains driven by profit above empathy. It reminded players that even in a world of bright colors, darkness could still find a place to hide. Deep beneath Mahogany Town, Team Rocket ran one of its most disturbing experiments, attempting to artificially evolve Magikarp into Gyarados. In a hidden laboratory filled with humming machines and flickering screens, they used radio waves and force stimuli to trigger evolution unnaturally. The result was the now famous Red Gyarados, a creature born from manipulation and pain. Its rage was uncontrollable, its power unmatched, and its appearance became a warning to all who tampered with nature. When trainers eventually discovered the base, they uncovered not just the technology, but the cruelty behind it. That single event changed the tone of Team Rocket's story, no longer just bumbling thieves, but a reminder that unchecked ambition can twist even the simplest Pokémon into something monstrous. It was Giovanni who secretly funded the creation of Mewtwo, one of the most powerful and tragic Pokémon ever made. Through the brilliant but obsessed scientist Dr. Fuji, he provided money, equipment, and a purpose to create a perfect, controllable weapon. Mewtwo was designed from the DNA of the mythical Mew, a Pokémon so rare that many considered it a legend. Giovanni's dream was not just strength, but control, to command the ultimate life form. But as with many of Rocket's experiments, humanity's reach exceeded its grasp. In seeking to create power, they unknowingly gave birth to something that would never be ruled by anyone, not even the man who paid for its creation. When Mewtwo was born, it opened its eyes to a world it instantly rejected. It realized it was a clone, a creation built for someone else's ambition, and its anger consumed everything. In a single act of rebellion, Mewtwo destroyed the lab, killing everyone inside except Giovanni, who survived by chance. That moment became legend, the birth of a Pokémon too powerful to control and too intelligent to manipulate. The flames of the burning lab reflected in Giovanni's eyes as he realized the monster he'd unleashed. Mewtwo didn't hate for pleasure. It hated because it had been denied purpose. In that explosion, Team Rocket lost their greatest creation and gained their most dangerous enemy. After Mewtwo's escape, Giovanni still believed he could bend the creature to his will. In the anime's early episodes, he managed to briefly capture and use Mewtwo in battle, outfitting it with armor designed to suppress its power. But even restrained, Mewtwo's resentment grew. It was stronger than Giovanni's machines, wiser than his commands, and far too proud to serve. Eventually, Mewtwo broke free again, destroying everything Giovanni had built. That moment shattered Rocket's illusion of control, the idea that power could be owned or contained. Giovanni's dream of domination turned to dust in his hands, leaving him to face a humbling truth. The greatest power in the world isn't obedience, it's freedom. On Cinnabar Island, hidden beyond the volcano's heat, stood the Pokémon Mansion, a crumbling structure filled with notes, journals, and eerie silence. Inside, trainers discovered fragments of a story told through scattered logs, the experiments that created Mewtwo. The mansion had once been a Team Rocket research site, where cloning and genetic alteration were studied in secret. The notes chronicled Mew's DNA extraction, the early failures, and the eventual birth of Mewtwo. Now all that remained were burnt pages and broken machines, the ghosts of science gone too far. Every item inside told the same story, that Rocket's pursuit of perfection had ended in ruin. The mansion wasn't just a ruin, it was a graveyard of ambition, preserved in ash and memory. In the darker corners of the Pokémon world, Team Rocket built an empire of underground markets and secret auctions. They captured rare Pokémon from trainers, forests, and even breeding facilities, selling them to the highest bidder. From the outside, it looked like simple theft, but beneath the surface, it was organized crime on a massive scale. Certain Pokémon were prized not for strength, but for rarity, beauty, or rumor. Fossil Pokémon, psychic types, and even injured creatures were traded like trophies. It was a chilling reminder that in Rocket's world, everything, even life, had a price tag. For a team that claimed to rule the world with Pokémon, they instead revealed the truth of greed, wanting to own the world, one Pokeball at a time. Before Cinnabar Island became known for its official laboratory, Team Rocket experimented with fossil resurrection on their own. Their scientists sought to pull DNA from ancient remains, reviving extinct species like Kabutops and Aerodactyl. Unlike Cinnabar's scientists, who pursued curiosity, Rocket's goal was domination, to create obedient them battle-ready relics of the past. Their early attempts were unstable, producing malformed fossils and failed creations that never made it out of the lab. Still, those experiments paved the way for future breakthroughs. When the Cinnabar lab eventually perfected fossil resurrection, Rocket's fingerprints were quietly erased from history. But in truth, every revived fossil carried a trace of their ambition, a reminder that even extinction couldn't stop Rocket's hunger for control. Few fans know that Giovanni's original character concept in early Pokémon scripts went far beyond gyms and gang leadership. In unused story drafts, his research aimed to create Pokémon weapons for military use, living tools of war designed to obey human command without question. These early ideas were later toned down for younger audiences, but echoes of them remained. His fascination with strength, control, and power hinted at a man who saw Pokémon not as companions, but as soldiers. If those plans had been kept, the Pokémon world might have looked very different, a place where friendship was replaced by warfare, and Pokéballs held not partners, but weapons. It's chilling to imagine, and perhaps that's why it stayed on paper. When Pokémon Go arrived, it introduced a modern form of villainy, Team Go Rocket, an airborne offshoot of Giovanni's organization. They appeared one day in black, hot air balloons, dropping into Pokestops with corrupted Pokémon known as Shadow Pokémon. These creatures, surrounded by dark auras, were stronger, faster, and angrier than their normal counterparts, victims of cruel purification experiments. Players could battle the grunts, defeat their leaders, and rescue these Pokémon, returning them to peace. It was a clever twist on Rocket's legacy, not just stealing Pokémon, but rewriting their nature. Through glowing red eyes and dark energy, Go Rocket carried on Giovanni's dream, a world where Pokémon were stripped of freedom and reshaped into living weapons. In Pokémon Go's climactic encounters, Giovanni himself appears, commanding his most powerful creations, the Shadow legendary Pokémon. These battles feel personal, like confronting the ghost of every rocket scheme that came before, each victory against him offers a rare reward: the chance to capture and purify the very creature he's corrupted. Players face him under stormy skies, his Persian by his side, his words cold but familiar. Your efforts are futile, he says, but even in defeat, he walks away with dignity, promising to return. It's a poetic continuation of his story, still seeking control, still chasing strength, still refusing to fade into history. Because Giovanni isn't just a villain, he's the embodiment of obsession that never truly ends. Team Go Rocket made its dramatic debut in 2019, descending from the skies in ominous black hot air balloons. These floating fortresses carried rocket grunts who invaded Pokestops, turning once friendly landmarks into battle zones. Wherever the balloons hovered, chaos followed, spinning Pokestops dark, releasing shadow Pokémon, and challenging unsuspecting trainers below. It was the perfect modernization of the old Team Rocket spirit, silent, mobile, and everywhere at once. For players, it added a new thrill. You never knew when that faint rumble in the sky might turn into a rocket encounter. Through a smartphone screen, Rocket's shadow stretched across the real world, proving that no matter the era, Giovanni's influence always finds a way to rise, even above the clouds. The corrupted creatures known as Shadow Pokémon became the chilling face of Team Go Rocket's new era. They're instantly recognizable, glowing red eyes, trembling bodies, and dark smoke swirling around them like a curse. In the story, this transformation comes from Giovanni's twisted experiments, where Pokémon are stripped of emotion and filled with aggression. Even their cries sound painful, distorted echoes of what they once were. When purified by players, that darkness fades, but the experience leaves scars, both symbolic and emotional. Shadow Pokémon serve as living proof of Rocket's cruelty. Power gained at the cost of innocence. They embody Giovanni's vision perfectly, beauty and violence fused into one tragic creation. In the Pokémon Adventures manga, Team Rocket's ambition reached terrifying new heights when they created Thufaizir, a monstrous fusion of the three legendary birds. Zapdos, Moltres, and Articuno, once the symbols of elemental balance, were forcibly merged into a single being through cruel experimentation. The result was unstable, volatile, and powerful beyond measure. It could bend storms, ignite flames, and freeze the air with every wing beat. But even this living weapon couldn't be controlled. The experiment's existence captured Rocket's true nature, always seeking perfection no matter the cost. Thufaizir wasn't a triumph. It was a warning of what happens when humans try to play gods with creatures born of nature's own balance. The terrifying fusion, known as Thufaizir, was created by splicing the DNA of Zapdos, Moltres, and Articuno, the three legendary birds of Kanto. Each represented an element: electricity, fire, and ice. And together they formed an uncontrollable storm. Team Rocket, you hope to create the ultimate Pokémon, one that combined the power of all three elements into a single obedient weapon. But Thufaizir's body was unstable, its mind fractured by the conflicting energies inside it. In the manga, it eventually turned against its creators, proving that even gods stitched together by science refused to obey. That moment became one of Rocket's most haunting legacies, a reminder that nature cannot be rewritten without consequence. In the same manga, the fiery scientist Blaine was once secretly affiliated with Team Rocket before walking away. Known later as the Cinnabar Island gym leader, Blaine had worked with Giovanni on early cloning and genetic projects, including the creation of Mewtwo. But guilt eventually caught up with him. He severed ties with Rocket, burned his research, and tried to rebuild his life as a gym leader dedicated to knowledge instead of control. Still, the past lingered. His connection to Mewtwo haunted him, and his old alliance with Giovanni served as a painful reminder of his mistakes. Blaine's story added rare moral depth to Rocket's legacy, showing that even among villains, redemption is still possible. Few fans know that Jessie and James were almost cut from the English dub of the Pokémon anime entirely. When the show was first being localized, producers worried that Western audiences might tire of seeing the same villains appear every episode, a fear of what they called villain overexposure. But test audiences loved them. Their humor, chemistry, and absurdity turned them from side characters into icons. Removing them would have stripped the show of its most recognizable voices. So they stayed, and their exaggerated flair became a defining feature of Pokemon's charm overseas. It's strange to imagine a world without their motto, their mecha, and their endless failures. They weren't just spared by the editors, they were saved by the fans who couldn't stop smiling when they appeared. The Team Rocket motto, with its perfect rhyme and rhythm, was created entirely for Western audiences. In Japan, their original introduction was shorter and more serious, closer to a villain's declaration than a performance. But the English writers saw potential in their theatrical style and decided to turn it into something special. Each line was carefully crafted to match the pair's personalities: Jessie's pride, James's flair, and Meowth's comedic timing. The result was magic, a chant that balanced menace with melody, confidence with comedy. It became one of the most quoted lines in children's television, instantly recognizable even decades later. Their motto wasn't just dialogue, it was poetry disguised as villainy, a song of failure turned into art. In the early 2000s, Nintendo released a charming little GameCube demo called Meowth's Party. It featured Meowth playing an electric guitar and singing in a rock-style performance surrounded by dancing Pokémon. The short clip was originally created to showcase the GameCube's 3D animation capabilities, but it became a cult favorite among fans. The song was catchy, the visuals playful, and Meowth's personality shined brighter than ever. It was one of the few times the mischievous cat got the spotlight entirely to himself, not as a villain, but as a performer. For many, it captured everything that makes Team Rocket so beloved: silliness, charm, and just a hint of unexpected heart beneath the comedy. One of the most infamous banned Pokémon episodes, Beauty and the Beach, featured James cross-dressing, and it caused a media storm. In the scene, James wore an inflatable bikini top as part of a beach beauty contest, jokingly competing against Misty. Though intended as slapstick humor, the episode was deemed inappropriate for Western audiences and quickly pulled from rotation. Despite that, it became a piece of Pokémon legend, whispered about by fans for years, often resurfacing online as a curiosity. The moment wasn't malicious, it reflected Team Rocket's theatrical nature, where comedy and absurdity blur. It's a reminder that James's character, playful and flamboyant, has always defied norms with charm and humor instead of cruelty. Then came another controversial episode, Den Senshi Porygon, or Electric Soldier Porygon, which saw Team Rocket hacking Pokeball transfer networks. The plot itself was thrilling. Rocket agents used digital warfare to manipulate Pokémon transportation systems, turning technology against trainers. But during the broadcast, a rapid flashing sequence caused seizures in hundreds of viewers across Japan, forcing the episode's permanent ban. The event became one of television's most infamous accidents and reshaped anime safety standards worldwide. Even though Porygon took the blame, it was actually Team Rocket's attack that triggered the chaos in the story. That episode remains unseen, frozen in history, a cautionary tale of how even fiction can leave very real scars. The infamous Porygon episode became one of television's darkest moments. During its original broadcast, the rapid red and blue flashing effects triggered seizures in hundreds of viewers across Japan, most of them children. Hospitals were flooded with patients, and the news spread worldwide within hours. The fallout was immediate. The episode was banned globally, and Pokémon went on hiatus for months. Though the blame unfairly fell on Porygon, it was Team Rocket's virtual attack in the story that caused the flashes. Since then, Pokémon animation has strictly limited flashing effects to prevent a repeat of that tragedy. It was a painful reminder that even a light-hearted show could leave real-world consequences. To this day, that episode remains unreleased, a ghost story in Pokémon's long history. Team Rocket's uniforms, sleek black outfits, emblazoned with the signature red R, were inspired by Japan's Bosozoku biker gangs. These real-life groups were known for their rebellious spirit, loud fashion, and disregard for authority, traits that perfectly matched Rocket's aesthetic. The gloves, boots, and high-collared tops evoked both menace and style, giving them a sharp identity that stood out from other villainous teams. Even their confident postures and matching uniforms symbolized unity through rebellion. It's no coincidence that when other evil organizations appeared later, Team Magma, Galactic, Skull, they all took cues from Rocket's design language. The style wasn't just about intimidation, it was about belonging. To wear that R was to declare loyalty, pride, and defiance, a statement as bold as the Crimson Letter itself. Among Team Rocket's extended cast were Butch and Cassidy, a rival duo created as a clever parody of Jessie and James. Even their names are a play on the famous outlaws Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, reflecting their more professional image. While Jessie and James were chaotic dreamers, Butch and Cassidy were colder, more efficient, and actually successful at times. Their dynamic was the mirror image of the main trio: less love, more rivalry, and zero comedy. Butch's gravelly voice and Cassidy's sharp wit gave them an edge, making them perfect foils. Fans often saw them as what Jessie and James could have been if they'd taken their job seriously. But then again, seriousness was never what made Team Rocket so loved. A running gag that still makes fans smile is Butch's constant misnaming in the English dub. No matter where he goes or who he meets, someone always calls him Biff, Botch, or Bill, and he immediately snaps, correcting them in frustration. It's a small joke, but it became one of the series' most enduring bits of humor. The gag perfectly captures the irony of Team Rocket's world, where even villains can't catch a break. Butch's annoyance made him more human, a perfect contrast to Cassidy's calm confidence. In a way, the joke was poetic. While Jessie and James never got recognition for their failures, Butch couldn't even get recognition for his name. A punchline with personality, pure Rocket comedy. In the Pokémon Chronicles spin-off, Butch and Cassidy were given the spotlight as Team Rocket's elite agents, officially reporting to Giovanni himself. They operated with precision and structure, conducting real missions that actually succeeded. Their work often clashed with Jessie and James's chaotic plans, creating an ongoing rivalry within the organization. Where Jessie and James were passion-driven, Butch and Cassidy were methodical, true professionals who saw Rocket as a career, not an adventure. Their appearances in Chronicles gave fans a rare glimpse into the broader structure of Team Rocket, layers of ranks, missions, and discipline beneath the comedy. It proved the organization wasn't just a trio of fools. It was a global network, run like a real criminal empire, only far more stylish. In many of the Pokémon games, when Team Rocket grunts are defeated, they often mutter a final, loyal phrase, "Hail Giovanni." It's half salute, half prayer, a glimpse into how deeply they worship their leader. Even when they lose, they don't curse their fate. They reaffirm their devotion. It turns Giovanni from a man into a myth, the kind of figure whose presence lingers even when he's not there. For the player, it's unsettling. These aren't independent criminals. They're believers, bound by faith in a boss who rarely appears. Every whispered, "Hail Giovanni," reminds you that Rocket isn't just an organization. It's a cult of ambition, with one man's charisma holding it together long after the battles are over. Giovanni's gym badge, known as the Earth Badge, carries more meaning than most players realize. At first glance, it represents mastery, the final symbol of a trainer's strength before facing the Pokémon League. But thematically, it also stands for control, over power, over others, and over oneself. For Giovanni, it's the perfect emblem. He sees the world as something to be conquered, not through chaos, but through structure and will. When players finally defeat him to earn it, they're not just winning a badge, they're symbolically breaking free from his dominance. It's one of the most satisfying victories in Pokémon, the moment when the student surpasses the master and the chain of control finally snaps. In Pokémon Fire Red and Leaf Green, a mysterious Rocket admin hints that the player might be Giovanni's child. It's a single line, easy to miss, but it sent fans into a frenzy of speculation. The idea that the protagonist, the hero who defeats Team Rocket, could be related to its leader is hauntingly poetic. It suggests that the story isn't just about good versus evil, but about legacy, about escaping the shadows of the past. Though the theory was never confirmed, that one moment added depth to the story's moral grayness. After all, what better revenge against evil than for its heir to destroy it, not through hatred, but by choosing a different path? For years, fans have speculated that Silver, the red-haired rival from Pokémon Gold, and Silver is Giovanni's son. Hints scattered throughout the games seem to confirm it. Giovanni's disappearance, Silver's disdain for Team Rocket and their similar hair color. Silver's bitterness and obsession with strength mirror Giovanni's own flaws. Pride turned inward, anger turned against the world. But unlike his father, Silver eventually learns compassion, growing from a thief into a true trainer. It's a quiet redemption arc that unfolds across multiple games, showing that blood doesn't define destiny. If Giovanni represents the old world, control, greed, domination, then silver symbolizes the new, a future where even the children of villains can change. In early concept art, Giovanni was often drawn with a Persian far larger than any normal one, almost the size of a tiger. The design choice emphasized his status, not just as a trainer, but as someone whose very Pokémon reflected his authority. The oversized Persian lounged beside him like royalty, sleek and silent, radiating menace without a sound. It became his signature companion, a symbol of elegance and hidden power. Even in the anime, Giovanni's Persian mirrors his personality, calm, patient, and capable of striking without warning. That image of the powerful man and his regal feline remains one of the most iconic visuals in Pokémon lore. No roaring, no chaos, just quiet, commanding strength. Persian remains Giovanni's signature Pokémon, appearing beside him in nearly every version of the Pokémon universe, games, anime, manga, and beyond. While other villains flaunt dragons or legendaries, Giovanni's power lies in subtlety. His Persian doesn't need to roar or battle to prove dominance. Its silent stare says everything. The bond between them feels more like that of a king and his advisor, elegant, calculating, always in control. Even when Giovanni disappears from the story, Persian's presence lingers, its sleek outline often the first sign that the boss has returned. The image of the calm man and his immaculate cat has become timeless, representing power with grace, danger hidden beneath the smooth surface of luxury. In one touching moment, the anime hinted that Giovanni genuinely cares for his Persian. Between schemes and orders, there are small scenes, him gently stroking its fur, speaking to it in rare moments of softness. It's a glimpse behind the mask of the ruthless rocket boss, revealing a man who, at least toward one creature, shows compassion. When Persian is hurt or threatened, his composure cracks, and you see genuine worry in his eyes. That bond humanizes Giovanni more than any speech could. Perhaps it's the one relationship where he doesn't seek control or obedience, only companionship. For a man who built his empire on domination, that affection becomes quietly profound. Even villains, it seems, need someone to trust. Giovanni was once voiced by Ted Lewis, a versatile performer who also brought life to Tracy Sketchit, one of Ash's traveling companions. Lewis's deep, measured tone gave Giovanni an air of confidence and menace without ever shouting. He spoke with the kind of authority that could silence a room, calm, deliberate, always in command. That voice became an anchor for the character, turning him from a simple antagonist into something far more sophisticated. It's a fascinating contrast, considering Lewis also voiced such a kind, gentle character in Tracy. Where Tracy represented curiosity, Giovanni embodied control. Through his voice, fans could feel both the danger and allure of power, the quiet confidence of a man who never needs to raise his voice to be obeyed. In the Japanese version, Giovanni's voice carries a completely different tone, colder, sharper, and almost regal in its authority. There's no warmth or humor, only calm precision. He speaks like a businessman discussing numbers, even when ordering destruction. That difference in delivery gives the Japanese Giovanni a more intimidating presence, less cartoon villain, more corporate overlord. His words cut like glass, his silence even sharper. It's a reminder that tone can reshape a character's entire identity. While Western audiences see a charming, composed mastermind, Japanese fans hear something far more dangerous, a man whose confidence isn't performed but absolute. Both versions capture the same truth. Giovanni doesn't need rage to rule. His calm is his power. Team Rocket holds a rare distinction. It's the only villain group to appear in every Pokémon generation in some form. Other organizations rise and fall: Magma, Galactic, Plasma, Skull, but Rocket endures. Sometimes it's a cameo, a reference, or a lone grunt in hiding, but their shadow never disappears. They are the heartbeat of Pokemon's darker side, the thread connecting each era of storytelling. Even decades later, the phrase Team Rocket still evokes excitement and nostalgia. It's not just a name, it's an idea: greed, ambition, and charisma rolled into one timeless brand of mischief. No matter how many times they're defeated, they return with the same motto and the same grin. Evil, it seems, never retires. It just changes uniforms. In the year 2000, the Pokémon trading card game released its first Team Rocket expansion, a set that perfectly captured the organization's mischievous charm. The cards introduced dark Pokémon, creatures trained by Rocket members, depicted with shadowed colors and sinister expressions. Each card carried a sense of rebellion, a hint that these Pokémon weren't evil by nature, but shaped by their trainer's greed. The artwork was darker, the tone edgier, reflecting the criminal underworld of Kanto in cardboard form. It was a massive hit among fans, offering a rare look at the Pokémon world through the eyes of the villains. Even decades later, those black-bordered cards remain some of the most collectible, proof that Team Rocket could steal the spotlight even without trying. 4 years later came a spiritual sequel, A Team Rocket Returns, another TCG set released in 2004. This collection expanded on the dark Pokémon concept, introducing even more haunting artwork and mechanics centered on corruption and risk. It felt like a story told through cards, one where power came at a price. The set's design oozed Rocket's identity: elegant, greedy, and dangerous. Trainers could wield Pokémon altered by Rocket's influence, stronger but unstable, reflecting the team's obsession with manipulation. For collectors, it became a cult favorite, both for its artistry and for how boldly it leaned into villainy. In a game usually defined by light and adventure, Team Rocket Returns reminded players that the shadows still had their place too. In the anime, Jessie, James, and Meowth often break the fourth wall, directly acknowledging the audience or joking about the show itself. They've commented on script cliches, episode pacing, and even the predictability of their own failures. It's a rare trick for children's animation, villains aware of their role in a story. These moments make them feel alive, as if they know they're performers trapped in an endless loop of plans and explosions. It's that self-awareness that makes them so endearing. They're not just characters, they're actors in their own little tragedy comedy, and they know it. By laughing at themselves, Team Rocket became more than villains. They became storytellers who invited us to laugh along. Of all the trio's meta moments, Meowth is the most self-aware, sometimes making jokes that only adults or the animators would understand. He's commented about episode budgets, animation quality, and even script timing as if he's reading the show's production notes out loud. In one episode, he sighs, "We're running out of time," right before a scene transition, a wink to the editing room. Another time, he jokes that Team Rocket's mecha exploded because the animators love fireworks. It's subtle but brilliant, humor that breaks the illusion without ruining the story. Meowth's wit bridges the audience and the world itself, turning even failure into performance art. Only Team Rocket could turn budget jokes into something lovable. In the Japanese broadcasts, the Team Rocket trio occasionally narrates the episode previews, offering humorous recaps or teasing what's coming next. These segments are lighthearted and playful, often breaking tone entirely after a dramatic episode. Jessie's confident voice, James's cheer, and Meowth's sarcasm make even filler episodes feel fun. It's their way of stepping outside the story, reminding fans that win or lose, they'll always be back. Sometimes they mislead the audience, other times they mock their own failures. It's become a beloved tradition among Japanese viewers, giving the trio more personality beyond their villainy. In a world filled with heroes and rivals, Team Rocket alone gets to narrate the chaos they help create, with flair, laughter, and a wink. In the Game Boy Color title Pokémon Trading Card Game 2, players encountered a new faction known as Team Great Rocket. This group expanded on the original Team Rocket's influence, turning card battles into full-blown acts of domination. Led by Giovanni's daughter, Madame Boss's successor, they aimed to corrupt the card world itself, stealing decks instead of Pokémon. It was a clever twist, translating Rocket's greed from creatures to collectibles. The Great Rocket Castle loomed as the game's final challenge, filled with dark energy and high-stakes duels. Though the game never saw an English release, it became a cult favorite among fans, remembered for its eerie music, ambitious writing, and continuation of Rocket's legacy. Even in spin-offs, the organization's shadow stretched far beyond the main series. When Team Go Rocket invaded Pokémon Go, they didn't come alone. They introduced 3 new leaders, Arlo, Cliff, and Sierra. Each one represented a different branch of Giovanni's modern empire. Arlo, a former Team Valor member, brought intelligence and precision. Cliff, brute strength and loyalty. And Sierra, cold calculation with a hint of mystery. Their designs blended classic Rocket style with a modern twist, black leather, sharp accents, and commanding presence. Battling them felt more personal than fighting grunts, as each had unique Pokémon teams and distinct personalities. Together, they symbolized Rocket's evolution, no longer just bumbling crooks, but an organized force that adapted with time. Wherever Giovanni's name still echoes, these 3 carry his will into the digital age. In one of the most ambitious ideas in the Pokémon anime's history, writers once planned a massive Team Rocket versus Team Plasma story arc. It would have united the 2 villain teams in a sprawling battle across the Unova region, showing Rocket as serious threats again after years of comic relief. Early trailers promised darker tones, explosions, and even alliances between rivals. Jessie, James, and Meowth were set to appear in a more mature light, loyal soldiers caught in a war of ideologies. It was a rare chance to see them as capable operatives rather than clowns. But despite all the excitement, the arc would never air, its release interrupted by something far greater than fiction. The 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami in Japan changed the country and even Pokémon forever. In the aftermath, the planned Team Rocket versus Team Plasma episodes were canceled as the network delayed broadcasts out of respect and safety. The episodes reportedly featured large-scale destruction, collapsing cities, and chaos, imagery that would have hit too close to home for viewers still reeling from disaster. Though fragments of the story were later repurposed, the original version remains locked away. For fans, it became one of Pokémon's great lost legends, an arc that could have redefined Team Rocket's legacy. Sometimes, even in animation, reality writes its own ending. Quiet, respectful, and unfinished. In Pokémon Masters EX, Team Rocket once again reemerged, appearing as event bosses in limited-time story arcs. They arrived with their classic swagger and theme music, turning mobile battles into cinematic showdowns. Players faced Jessie, James, and even Giovanni, each commanding powerful sync pairs of Pokémon tied to their history: Persian, Arbok, Weezing, and more. Their dialogue retained the wit and humor of the anime, making every encounter nostalgic yet fresh. These events blended eras, letting longtime fans relive Rocket's golden age, while new players discovered them for the first time. Even in a mobile spin-off, Team Rocket proved timeless, a brand of villainy that could cross platforms, generations, and formats without ever losing its charm. In Pokémon Masters EX, Giovanni forms a sync pair with Mewtwo, his most powerful and symbolic Pokémon. Together, they embody the fusion of science and ambition, a man and a creation bound by shared arrogance. Mewtwo's raw psychic energy amplifies Giovanni's authority, making them one of the strongest duos in the game. Their special attacks shimmer with dark elegance, reflecting not chaos, but precision. What makes this pairing so powerful isn't just strength, it's history. For decades, the two have been intertwined, creator and creation, master and rebel. In this new form, they finally stand side by side, not as enemies, but as equals. It's a haunting reunion, as if Giovanni has finally tamed the ghost of his greatest failure. Among longtime fans, one theory suggests Giovanni never meant to use Mewtwo for destruction, but for protection. According to this interpretation, his experiments were an attempt to create a guardian powerful enough to defend humanity from larger threats. His downfall, then, wasn't cruelty, it was hubris. He believed he could control something meant to be free. Mewtwo's rebellion wasn't the story of an evil creation, but of a misunderstood mission twisted by pride. It's a theory that paints Giovanni not as a villain, but as a tragic visionary, a man who wanted peace, but lost his way in pursuit of power. In a world of black and white morality, it's a rare shade of gray, where ambition and idealism blur into the same sin. Another powerful interpretation of Team Rocket's legacy suggests that their cruelty represents human greed, not evil. They don't hurt others for pleasure. They do it for profit, status, and survival. In that sense, they're reflections of humanity's own flaws, the endless hunger for more. Whether it's cutting slowpoke tails, cloning Pokémon, or stealing rare species, each act of cruelty mirrors a real-world vice, exploitation disguised as ambition. That's why their story resonates. Team Rocket isn't a fantasy, it's a cautionary tale. They show what happens when love for power replaces love for life. Even their motto, to denounce the evils of truth and love, feels like a confession of what greed does to the soul. When Pokémon first reached Western audiences, many of Team Rocket's darker crimes were softened or rewritten for younger viewers. In the Japanese version, Their actions were often more violent: thefts, sabotage, and even harm toward Pokémon. But in the English dub, their motives were made comedic, their cruelty replaced with slapstick. Instead of malicious plots, we got exploding balloons, and endless failed traps. It worked. The trio became lovable rather than terrifying. Still, traces of their original menace remained in tone and dialogue, hinting at a deeper story beneath the jokes. What began as censorship ended up creating something better: villains who were dangerous enough to fear, yet funny enough to love. In Japanese media, Team Rocket agents sometimes carry real weapons, from pistols to bazookas, visual symbols of the danger they represent. These moments were removed from English broadcasts, replaced with gadgets or empty threats to keep the tone lighter. The result changed the group's entire presence, from gangsters to bumbling thieves. But in Japan, that darker version still exists, one where Rocket truly feels like a criminal syndicate, not comic relief. Giovanni's headquarters hum with tension, his agents act like soldiers, and their missions carry real stakes. It's a reminder that Team Rocket isn't just funny, they're frightening when portrayed honestly. Even stripped of their weapons, their ambition remains the sharpest weapon of all. In the original Pokémon Stadium, a now deleted voice line once hinted that Team Rocket secretly funded the Sylph covert invasion in Saffron City. It suggested a deeper conspiracy, that Rocket's attack on the company wasn't just about theft, but corporate takeover. Giovanni wasn't trying to steal technology, he wanted to own it. Sylph Codes was the heart of Kanto's innovation, producing Pokeballs, TMs, and communication tech. If Rocket had succeeded, they wouldn't have just controlled Pokémon, they would have controlled how trainers interacted with them. Though the line was removed, its implication lingers, that beneath every invention, every gleaming skyscraper, Rocket's influence might still hum quietly, disguised as progress. It's the kind of villainy that doesn't shout, it invests. Even after Giovanni's downfall, Rocket grunts continue to appear in the overworld, challenging players still long after the main story ends. They linger in alleys, caves, and hidden corners, remnants of a fallen empire that refuses to fade. Their presence tells a subtle story, that evil never vanishes, it just retreats. Some are delusional, still waiting for Giovanni's return. Others are pragmatic, stealing to survive. The games never mock them. Instead, they show the aftershocks of power, people clinging to a name that once gave them purpose. Defeating them isn't just victory, it's closure, a quiet acknowledgement that loyalty, even to the wrong cause, doesn't disappear easily. Team Rocket endures because belief endures, and belief is harder to defeat than any Pokémon. With Pokémon Gold and Silver, the series introduced something new: female Team Rocket grunts. Until then, Rocket's ranks had been entirely male, reinforcing the image of a classic crime syndicate. But Johto's edition changed that, showing women in Rocket uniforms with equal authority, strong, cunning, and ruthless in their own right. Their presence made the organization feel larger, more structured, and far more real. It wasn't just a gang anymore, it was a movement with hierarchy and diversity. The shift also humanized the team, no longer faceless goons, but people with voices, personalities, and motives. Even small additions like that helped make Rocket's world richer, proof that even villains evolve. Despite their orders and reputation, some Rocket members genuinely care for their Pokémon. In scattered dialogues across the games, you find grunts worrying about injured partners, feeding them, or refusing to fight after a loss. It's a rare softness in a world of corruption. One grunt in Heart Gold even refuses to leave his Pokémon behind when Rocket disbands, saying, "I can't abandon my friend." Moments like that remind players that evil organizations are built from people and people are complicated. These glimpses of kindness hint that not every Rocket joined for greed. Some simply wanted belonging, purpose, or companionship. Even among thieves and schemers, love finds a way to slip through the cracks. While the Team Rocket uniform is instantly recognizable, the black outfit with a red R, it actually varies across regions and missions. In Kanto, agents wear simple shirts and caps, a practical look for infiltration. In Johto, grunts sport heavier gloves and boots for underground work. By the time Team Go Rocket appears, armor plating and sleek detailing make their suits feel tactical, almost militarized. These small variations reflect each generation's technology and tone, from classic mobster to covert operative. The uniform's evolution mirrors Rocket's adaptability. No matter the setting, they always find a way to blend power with style. No one wears villainy quite like Team Rocket. Polished, professional, and unmistakably iconic. In the Pokémon Adventures manga, Team Rocket once hacked the Pokémon storage system, disrupting how trainers could access and transfer their Pokémon. It was one of the first times the organization's reach extended beyond physical theft into digital manipulation. Their interference corrupted the data so severely that it forced a plot reset, essentially rewriting parts of the narrative. It symbolized Rocket's evolution from simple poachers to full-fledged cybercriminals. Their goal wasn't just to steal Pokémon anymore. It was to control the very network that connected trainers worldwide. In a world built on trust between humans and Pokémon, the hack represented something darker. The fragility of that bond when technology and greed become tools of control. It was Rocket's cruelty, digitized. After Team Rocket's downfall, many of their scientists defected to other villainous teams, bringing their knowledge and their moral corruption with them. Some joined Team Galactic, attracted by Cyrus's cold vision of perfection through science. Others drifted into shadowy labs, continuing experiments Giovanni had abandoned. This crossover of personnel implies that evil in the Pokémon world isn't isolated, it's inherited. Each new team builds on Rocket's foundation, using their research to pursue their own twisted goals. In a way, Rocket's influence became a virus, spreading quietly, infecting ideologies, and reappearing under new names and symbols. Even when the organization dies, its scientists ensure its spirit of ambition and obsession never truly fades. Within the Pokémon world itself, Giovanni's image became a marketing tool used in fake commercials, posters, and even statues, all bearing the polished smile of a powerful man hiding corruption. The propaganda portrayed him as a philanthropist, a businessman funding gyms and community programs. In truth, these were fronts for his operations, spreading Rocket's reach through money and influence rather than violence. Players and viewers who noticed these ads saw a chilling duality: a man worshipped publicly while committing atrocities in secret. It's a timeless form of villainy, not the brute force of monsters, but the quiet manipulation of image. In a world of heroes, Giovanni conquered perception itself, the most dangerous illusion of all. In Pokémon Origins, a faithful retelling of the original games, Giovanni faces Red in a climactic battle that redefines his character. Unlike the cartoonish villain of the anime, this Giovanni is composed and reflective, a man who respects strength and understands defeat. When Red wins, Giovanni doesn't lash out or flee. He pauses. You can see realization flicker across his face, the weight of his own choices settling in. He disbands Team Rocket not out of fear, but out of shame. It's a moment of rare vulnerability in Pokémon storytelling, a villain who acknowledges the damage he's caused and steps away. For the first time, Giovanni isn't a tyrant. He's a man who finally understands what true strength really means. That scene forever recast Giovanni as a tragic villain rather than a pure mastermind. In his quiet surrender, players saw not evil, but exhaustion, the collapse of a man who built his empire on pride. He wasn't defeated by force, but by perspective. Seeing Red's bond with his Pokémon broke something in him, reminding him of what he'd lost chasing control. It turned a once flat antagonist into one of Pokémon's most layered figures, a leader undone by his own dream. The moment is hauntingly human, proof that redemption, however faint, can exist even in the darkest hearts. In that silence after his loss, Team Rocket's greatest weapon, ambition, finally turned against him. During many of Giovanni's meetings, his Persian is seen calmly grooming itself, completely unfazed by the chaos around it. While Rocket executives scramble to deliver reports or face his wrath, Persian remains serene, elegant, detached, and perfectly in control, much like its master. It's a subtle bit of animation that speaks volumes. Persian doesn't need to roar to command respect. Its composure alone makes the room feel smaller. Sometimes Giovanni strokes its fur mid-conversation, using the gesture as punctuation, a silent reminder that he decides who stays calm and who trembles. In those scenes, Persian isn't just a pet, it's an extension of Giovanni's power, beautiful, dangerous, and perfectly still while the world beneath it obeys. Throughout the anime, Team Rocket's obsession with gadgets has become one of its longest-running gags. Every episode brings a new invention, nets that shoot from balloons, mechas powered by bicycles, or enormous vacuums that suck up entire flocks of Pokémon. They build these machines with impossible speed and endless creativity, only for them to explode minutes later. But their inventions aren't just props. They represent Rocket's eternal optimism. No matter how many times they fail, Jessie, James, and Meowth always believe the next one will work. That spirit of persistence, equal parts genius and foolishness, is why fans adore them. They don't give up on their dreams. They just keep rebuilding them with bigger buttons. In one of their more charming side plots, Jessie and James opened a Rocket Cafe as part of an undercover plan to capture rare Pokémon. Disguised as baristas, they served food and drinks to unsuspecting customers, including Ash and his friends. But somewhere along the way, they started to enjoy it. Their teamwork shined, the customers were happy, and for a fleeting moment, they almost seemed normal. It's one of those episodes that blurs the line between villainy and everyday life, showing how easily they could have thrived if they'd chosen a different path. When the scheme inevitably fell apart, they left the cafe behind, but not before proving that even crooks can make a mean latte. Despite being blasted off hundreds of times, Jessie, James, and Meowth always survive, dust themselves off, and return by the next episode. They've been electrocuted, frozen, buried, and launched into the stratosphere, yet they endure. It's almost supernatural, but it fits their nature. They're too stubborn to quit. Their indestructibility became part of their mythos, like cartoon physics powered by sheer determination. Each explosion is a reminder that failure doesn't define them, recovery does. In a strange way, their endless defeats make them symbols of resilience. They might never win, but they never stop trying, and in that persistence lies their quiet, comedic immortality. By the time of Sun and Moon, Team Rocket had embraced the modern age, upgrading their technology with help from a rodent-powered Pokeball launcher. Gone were the days of clunky nets. This sleek new gadget could analyze opponents and deploy capture tactics in real time. The Rotom device even had a snarky personality, often arguing with Meowth mid-battle. It was a brilliant touch, the fusion of old-school rocket ambition with new-era innovation. Even on tropical Alola beaches, they adapted, refined, and refused to fade into irrelevance. Their persistence across generations shows that Team Rocket doesn't just survive, it evolves. No matter how the world changes, they'll always find a way to chase Pikachu in style. Over the years, Team Rocket has served as the perfect comic relief, balancing the show's tension between emotional rivalries and intense Pokémon battles. When the story risks becoming too serious, Jessie, James, and Meowth crash in, sometimes literally, with exaggerated plans, witty dialogue, and elaborate disguises. Their failures provide laughter, but also rhythm, giving the viewer a breath between the show's heavier moments. It's a delicate balance. They're foolish, but never useless. They remind us that even in a world of champions and legends, there's room for humor and heart. Without them, the Pokémon anime might have been colder, too focused on victory. Instead, thanks to Team Rocket, every defeat feels a little lighter, every blast-off a reason to smile. In Japan, Team Rocket has even performed their own songs, most famously Double Trouble, a catchy theatrical anthem celebrating their love of chaos. The song's playful lyrics and jazzy rhythm capture everything that makes them special: ego, teamwork, and flair. Jessie's dramatic vocals, James's over-the-top harmonies, and Meowth's quick interjections turn it into pure musical comedy. Over the years, they've sung several other endings and character singles, often closing episodes with humor and style. For many fans, those songs are nostalgic treasures, reminders that even villains can have a soundtrack. When Team Rocket sings, it's not about evil or conquest. It's about identity, friendship, and the joy of always being themselves. It's no exaggeration to say that Team Rocket's persistence and friendship have made them some of the most beloved villains in anime history. Their loyalty to one another through countless losses and humiliations turns them from antagonists into underdog heroes. They don't win battles, but they win hearts. They embody the idea that companionship means more than success, that laughter can survive even the worst luck. For younger fans, they're funny. For older ones, they're oddly inspiring, proof that failure doesn't end a story, it gives it flavor. In a universe filled with legends and champions, Team Rocket stands out not because they're strong, but because they never stop believing they could be. Even after more than 2 decades, Team Rocket remains an irreplaceable part of Pokemon's identity. They're the constant thread running through generations, from Kanto to Alola, from 2D sprites to 3D worlds. Whenever they appear, fans feel the same spark of nostalgia, that familiar motto, that flash of the red OR, that ridiculous confidence. They've outlasted dozens of rival teams and hundreds of episodes, evolving right alongside the series itself. Their presence bridges childhood and adulthood, reminding viewers how long this world has lived in their hearts. Pokémon wouldn't feel like Pokémon without them, not just villains, but mascots of mischief, hope, and laughter. They've earned their place not through conquest, but through persistence. And through it all, every plan, every disguise, every explosion, one thing has never changed. They always blast off again. No matter how high they fly or how hard they fall, they return with the same spirit, the same motto, and the same unbreakable bond. It's their signature ending, part gag, part poetry, part resilience. Each blast-off is both failure and rebirth, a funny little metaphor for trying again tomorrow. They might be losers on paper, but in persistence, they're champions. And so, as the smoke clears and their laughter fades into the sky, one truth remains. No matter how many times they fall, Team Rocket will always rise again. And as the night quiets and the echoes of their motto fade into memory, we're left with something unexpectedly comforting. Team Rocket, the fools, the dreamers, the underdogs, remind us that failure isn't the end of the story. It's just another chance to try again. Through every explosion, disguise, and defeat, they've taught us that persistence, friendship, and laughter can outshine even the grandest victories. They were never truly villains. They were storytellers in disguise, voices of chaos and comedy that kept the world of Pokémon alive and human. For more than 25 years, they've soared, stumbled, and soared again, chasing a dream they never quite caught, but never stopped believing in. So wherever they are now, in the sky, among the stars, or waiting for one more plan to go wrong, one thing is certain. They'll keep blasting off, again and again. Good night, Team Rocket, and sweet dreams wherever you land.